Welcome to the Stetson University Department of Counselor Education information video. This video will address many important topics for your consideration as you navigate our application process. We'll talk a little bit about the philosophy and the mission of our department, and I'll introduce you to our core faculty. Then we'll also discuss the counseling profession overall from a broad standpoint, and then more specifically, Stetson's counseling program. What makes us unique and sets us apart from the other programs that you have to choose from. We will discuss the program standards and policies, at least briefly, and show you where to find those if you would like to explore them further, and also talk about the personal and the professional competencies that are expected of our counseling students. Finally, I will explain some financial resources that may be available to you as a student in our program. Our department's mission statement captures the experience that our students encounter in our program and also the commitment that we make to our students. The mission of the Department of Counselor Education is to educate counseling students, including those from diverse academic, geographic, religious and spiritual, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds, preparing them to accept and demonstrate their professional counseling responsibilities with distinction. Students learn to behave ethically, become aware of their personal strengths and resiliency, as well as their professional counseling responsibilities, in an effort to apply these skills and self-knowledge to a culturally diverse clientele. And this mission is accomplished through the objectives of the department: that students will develop an ethically informed professional identity, will have an awareness of personal strengths and resiliency, will have an appreciation of diverse cultures, exhibit critical thinking and creative expression, and also an efficacious commitment to professional and community service. And now I'd like to introduce you to our faculty. We have 5 core faculty members in the Department of Counselor Education. First, we have Dr. Judith Burnett, and she's a licensed psychologist who specializes in reproductive health, service learning, sexuality counseling, and multicultural counseling. Dr. Burnett's also currently engaged in an international project in which she works with vulnerable youth in Naivasha, Kenya, and her work there has actually presented opportunities for our students to become involved as well. Next, we have Dr. Jesse Fox. Dr. Fox is the director of our Counseling Research Lab, and he works with students through research and publication projects. Dr. Fox's research focuses primarily on contemplative practices, spiritually integrated counseling, and the development of clinical decision-making or intuition. Dr. Fox is currently developing Stetson's Stress Management and Resiliency Training Lab, or the acronym SMART Lab, that will teach students and community members to utilize biofeedback to develop effective stress management techniques. Dr. Leela Roach is licensed as both a marriage and family therapist and clinical mental health counselor in the state of Florida. She teaches couple and family counseling courses and supervises practicum and internship students. She has experience working with members of the deaf community, as well as advanced training in couples counseling, play therapy, and disaster behavioral health. Her research interests include spirituality, wellness, and ethics. She has worked for extended periods with the National Board of Certified Counselors International in the country of Bhutan, and has served as president of the Association for Spiritual, Ethical, and Religious Values in Counseling, or ASERVIC, a division of the American Counseling Association. My name is Paige Thanasu, and I am currently serving as the chair of our department. I coordinate our Play and Creativity in Counseling Advanced Studies courses, and my areas of expertise include counseling children and adolescents, play therapy, and sand tray therapy. These, in addition to the topic of professional gatekeeping, are also my primary areas of interest for research and publication. And last but not least, Dr. Jackie Williams serves as our practicum and internship coordinator for both of our programs. She teaches multiple courses, both clinical and content focused, And her areas of expertise include topics of body image and eating disorders. And she also works extensively with psychological strengthening and conditioning for professional and collegiate athletes. So now we're going to look at the counseling profession from a broad perspective. What makes us distinct from other helping professions? While professional counselors are trained to diagnose and treat mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders in a variety of settings, the counseling profession is unique in that it takes a more holistic approach to helping people and really focuses in on developing greater levels of wellness. So, rather than coming from a perspective that is strictly pathology-based or problem-focused, we look at things from a strengths-based perspective. We're looking at what the person comes to us with as the parts that are working, the areas that we can build upon. We also focus on prevention of issues. Separately, we are very focused on, in our field, evidence-based practices. We're using strong counseling and clinical skills and using things that are backed up by research. We also abide by very specific ethical standards. So you see the American Counseling Association logo there, and that is our primary parent organization when it comes to the code of ethics that we follow, although there are many that may apply to us at the same time, including the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy and the American Mental Health Counselors Association. The particular area that we focus on here at Stetson, because the counseling profession has many different things under that broad umbrella, but the ones that we focus on are clinical mental health counseling and then marriage, couple, and family counseling. So if you go out and look at the field and kind of look at what job opportunities are available, oftentimes you'll see that one particular setting will be hiring both. In fact, they may have one position available and say that the person should either be a licensed mental health counselor or a licensed marriage and family therapist. So the types of settings may oftentimes look very much the same. So what helps somebody decide which one is right for them? Ultimately, the distinctions lie mostly in the theoretical orientation, the way in which you approach your clients. From a clinical mental health counseling standpoint, a person usually is focused much more on the individual. And the distinction from marriage, couple, and family is a very strong family systems or ultimately just an overall systems perspective. So that's ultimately the distinction between the two. So ways to use a counseling degree, again, from that broad perspective. You may choose to pursue a license in mental health counseling or a license in marriage and family therapy. You may also, though, choose to utilize it in other ways. We have people who go into family business. They use the training in such a way that it actually just allows them to better understand people and better able to navigate relationships with people. We've had people that come through our program and then decide to go on to law school, and they're utilizing this information that they're learning to focus on family law and or collaborative divorce. But going back to the counseling profession, you may also choose to use this in community agencies, whether those are mental health related or not. Certainly hospital settings, in and outpatient types of opportunities. We have a lot of students who also are very interested in working with veterans, and the Veterans Administration will hire licensed people within mental health and marriage and family. May choose to do a group private practice, somewhere where you are more on your own, but you may have still people that you've gone into that business with, but you're not really working under the umbrella of a larger agency. Some people choose to do consulting work, and that may be with businesses, with organizations. It may be court consulting, all different kinds of hybrid types of ways people have used the degree. Some choose to become school counselors. There are some avenues for that technically. And also even just with beginning with that mental health or marriage and family degree. And also, there's been a larger push for having a mental health perspective and presence in the schools. So some of our graduates are now being hired as mental health professionals within the school system. Some choose to become college counselors. Others are very interested in equine and animal-assisted therapies. They work with horses, with dogs as their assistants for working with their human clients. Some go on to PhD work or EDD work, so doctoral programs. And again, honestly, the list is endless. There are many, many different ways in which you can use a counseling degree. The job outlook is really strong for counseling overall. At this time, it's projected that the predicted growth of the profession is about 19% between 2014 and 2024, and that's considered much faster than average. Now let's look a little bit more narrowly at the counselor education program at Stetson. To begin with, one thing that's very important to us is that we are CACREP accredited, which is, of course, the Council for the Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs. This ensures that you are going to receive an education that is held to very high standards. When it comes to CACREP accredited programs, you want to be sure that any counseling program you pursue, whether it's us or not, is CACREP accredited. Within the state of Florida specifically, it will make a difference in your licensing, actually. The Florida law is written such that when you graduate from a CACREP accredited program in clinical mental health counseling, you only need to submit your transcripts to show that you have met the coursework requirement. If instead you are not coming from a CACREP accredited program, then they will want you to turn in all of your syllabi, and they will comb through those to determine whether they believe you did or did not meet the minimum standards. And that can easily end up with you having to go back and take courses again. So ultimately, you just want to be absolutely sure that you are in a CACREP accredited program. For us in particular, as I said, we have clinical mental health counseling, we have marriage, couple, and family counseling, but we also have a dual degree option. And if you were to choose to do that, you can take both programs concurrently. You would only take an additional couple of courses that are content specific for the other track that you didn't major in, as well as one additional internship semester. You also have the opportunity to major in either clinical mental health counseling or marriage, couple, and family counseling and get advanced studies in the opposite major if you don't wish to do the full dual degree program. When you think of the dual degree option, it's kind of like having two majors. So you still have one degree, but you have two separate majors. You also have an opportunity to pursue advanced level training and certification opportunities with our program. So some of those are just things that will be required for some students. For example, our marriage and family students will have the opportunity to become Prepare Enrich certified, as well as Gottman Level 1 certified. So these are specific to working with couples. And our mental health students can choose to, for a little bit of an added fee, they can still sign up for these same workshops and go through those and get those certificates as well. All students also are certified in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy when they come out of the Counseling Children and Adolescents class. So there are opportunities to have things that could be put on your resume and will give you a bit of an edge in the job market as well. So as I mentioned earlier, students have the opportunity to pursue advanced studies. So in addition to perhaps pursuing advanced studies in the program track that is not their major, some students may choose some other options. One is our Play and Creativity in Counseling. That is 3 courses that focus in on the theories, skills, and application of play therapy with children, adolescents, and families. And then also we have a very heavy focus at times, on expressive arts and the use of this creativity as a means of communication and expression with children, adults, and with adolescents, but also with families, with groups of people as well. Separately, some students have an interest in spiritually integrated counseling. Within this course, students can learn how to navigate spiritual issues in their clients' presenting concerns, as well as drawing upon the spirituality in their client as a healing agent in their treatment. So there are many opportunities to connect with others in our program. That may be with faculty and with staff, and it also may be with peers. Within the range of faculty and staff, students have the chance to present with faculty members at conferences, to participate in research, and sometimes to also contribute to publications. When it comes to peers, there are 2 student orgs that give you an opportunity to get to know each other a little bit better, to build community, and to also contribute to some important work within the community and the campus as well. The first one is impact, and this is one we're very excited about. It's very, very new, so I don't have any photos of that to share with you yet, but we hope to very soon. Impact stands for Intellectuals Methodically Pursuing Academic Consciousness Together. This is our new multicultural graduate student organization that is designed to support our grad students of color through their journey of graduate education by building a community to thrive and share successes, concerns, and participate in social events and professional development experiences, and finally to engage in the campus and community resources and programs. There will definitely be more to come on impact. And separately as well, we have Chi Sigma Iota. This is the International Honor Society for Counseling Programs. Promoting excellence in the profession of counseling is overall the mission of Chi Sigma Iota. Our particular chapter is the Alpha Omicron chapter. We have 4 committees that our students get a chance to be a part of, or at least to experience the benefits of the work that they do. The first of which is the social committee. I always tell the students that they have a very important job with that committee. They are a part of building the social support within our program as well as a sense of community. And students get to be a part of lots of different fun events. We do holiday events for multiple types of holidays. We celebrate the big successes within our program as well as just enjoying time together through the social committee. We have an advocacy committee that does many different types of activities. It really depends on the desires of the student body at the time and that particular committee as well. So some of the organizations or groups of people that they have worked with before have included domestic violence, autism awareness, suicide awareness, and prevention, lots of things like that. We have the Professional Development Committee who bring in many different types of workshops or experiential activities that aren't necessarily covered in our particular coursework. So there are so many things out there that you can enjoy and learn from and be a part of within the counseling profession that we couldn't possibly cover everything in our program. So some of the things they've brought in have been particular experts within the field of rational emotive behavior therapy. We had Debbie Jaffe-Ellis come and join us down from New York City at one point in time and do some workshops for our students and our community. We've had EMDR workshops. We've had equine therapy workshops, just tons and tons of different neat things. And finally, last but not least, we have our fundraising committee, and they are responsible for raising the funds that allow us to keep doing the fun events that we do and the professional development that we do, but also at times fundraising for some of our community needs that we have. So some of the values that we have at Stetson. Number one, we value a systemic focus. So we talked about a little while ago that a systemic focus is kind of the basis for a marriage and family theoretical orientation. But at Stetson, every student takes the family systems class. We believe that it is important to understand the individual dynamics, but we need to also be able to understand a human within the context of their many different types of systems and the ways in which that will impact their development and their functioning. Another big value of ours is having small class sizes. That's something that we choose to do so that, again, the instructor can work more individually with students. We believe that provides a higher level of quality for our interactions with our students. So some of the classes may have 10 people in them. Some may be capped at 12. Some are capped at 18 or 20, depending on the topic, depending on the level of skill development that's going on. Some are even capped at 6. Our practicum courses are capped at 6. So ultimately, though, you will experience certainly small class sizes throughout your time in the program. Another is faculty availability and student-faculty relationships. And I already mentioned this earlier with the ability to connect with others and to do research and presentations with faculty. We also feel that that's one of the best ways that we can help our students to become ethical practitioners, is to really just get to know you and the way that you approach the field and the client relationship in general. So those are some of the reasons that, again, with our small class sizes, we have the ability to work more closely with students. Another big value of ours is student wellness and resiliency. We feel like it's very difficult to help others find wellness if you yourself do not have wellness. So while graduate school is certainly at times a stressful endeavor, we focus greatly in on the students' resiliency, wellness, the strengths that you have within you already, and we really work to help you build a toolbox of coping skills and just all of the elements of wellness that you'll be helping your clients to find, discover, and develop over time. Another thing is we use a lot of experiential learning. So experiential learning will look like different things in different classes. One of the pictures you have here in the upper quadrant there is a couple of students that are in one of the marriage and relationship classes, and they are having an opportunity to demonstrate a dynamic that they're learning about in physical form. So there are some classes that will allow you to do things like that. Some are a little bit more physical. If you look down toward the bottom quadrant, that is our group retreat. And so each student gets a chance to go away for the weekend for our group retreat. And there is a high ropes course as an option, as well as a low ropes course. And it is challenge by choice. So you are not required to get up on that beam, but it is something that we give you an opportunity to push yourself and to push your limits and your boundaries in a way that's comfortable ultimately, though, for your growth. So some of them, are very experiential from a physical standpoint, and many are more related to the way in which you learn. Sometimes you will have an opportunity to go out into the community. Our counseling in a community setting course gives students the opportunity to go and meet a need in the community after doing a kind of a needs assessment and understanding what is needed, finding ways to help solve problems that are in our local community. And then the community engagement piece. As you see here, this is Dr. Roach with our Community Partner Award, and this is something that we're very proud of. We were awarded this by the Central Florida Association for Marriage and Family Therapy in December of 2018. And this is in relation to the work that we do as a program, but then also our students and our faculty in particular who are involved with that organization. So lots of opportunities to get involved with our community. And finally, a big value of ours is social justice and advocacy. And again, there are many ways in which we will do that or show that. One example is that we tend to work very closely with the LGBTQ population, and there are many opportunities to get involved, whether through practicum and internship or some of the activities and professional development things that we engage in. So we even have a conference here at Stetson that focuses in on gender identity, and some of our students present at that conference each year. There are many chances to get involved with social justice and advocacy while in the program. So some of the program requirements that we have that, again, are distinctions. One is we require that every student engage in 8 personal counseling sessions. We believe it's very important that you know what it feels like to be a client as well as to be the counselor when you graduate from this program. Sometimes students will ask if they can count counseling that they have already engaged in prior to coming into the program, and we think it's a fabulous and wonderful thing if you have had counseling prior to coming in. However, we do require that these particular 8 sessions take place after you have begun your program. You'll have lots of opportunities to do a lot of self-reflection and self-discovery, and there may be a point in time in which you feel that you would really benefit most from counseling at that time, and that'll be the right time for you to go ahead and do that. You would need to go to somebody who is a licensed counselor somewhere out in the community or perhaps at the counseling center here on campus. And you can engage in individual counseling, group counseling, couples counseling, family counseling. Any of those will be wonderful to count for that. And you'll just simply get a letter from the counselor stating that you have attended a minimum of 8 personal counseling sessions, and that's it, just signed by that counselor. Another thing is we require students to engage in 2 professional counseling related conferences while in the program. These are wonderful opportunities for learning as well as networking, and they need to be a minimum of 2 days. And they can be local, they can be state level, national, international, all kinds of different opportunities that are out there. Another program requirement we have is practicum and internship, which takes place over the course of a year and consists of 800 hours. These 800 clinical hours meet the Florida state licensing standards that are required by law. This clinical year is broken up into practicum, internship 1, and internship 2. In practicum, students complete 200 hours. That's 40 direct client contact hours and 160 indirect hours. Students can usually do this in about 10 to 15 hours per week. In internship 2, students complete 300 hours, typically going in 18 to 20 hours a week. And 120 of those 300 hours needs to be direct client contact, which leaves 180 for indirect hours. Internship 2 is the same as internship 1, so students will again complete 300 hours, with 120 of those being direct and 180 being indirect. If instead a student has chosen to complete a dual degree, then they will total 1,400 hours rather than 800 hours while they are in practicum and internship. And that will actually include an additional semester of internship as well as some different hours requirements throughout practicum internship 1 and internship 2 as well. We do have an approved list of partners that we have that most of our students will utilize for practicum and internship. And there are opportunities to have additional partnerships set up, but we actually do have an extensive list and we've been very successful with those. So that means that students get the opportunity usually to work with the population of their interest. Sometimes people choose instead something that just works more with their schedule rather than a particular population that they want to work with. But ultimately we get to the point when you're ready for practicum and internship in which you will be working more individually, either with the practicum and internship coordinator and or with your advisor to make sure that that process goes smoothly. Another requirement before graduation is to pass the Counselor Preparation Comprehensive Exam, or the CPCE, and you will be well prepared for that exam before you begin to take it. You'll take that in practicum. And it covers the 8 core areas that KCREP says you need to show demonstration of mastery in prior to the time in which you would graduate. And another requirement is our e-portfolio. We have an electronic portfolio that you would be compiling throughout your whole time in the program. And again, that is especially looking at some of those core KCREP areas and as well integrating in the objectives that we went over in the very beginning, the objectives of our department. So you're showing evidence of mastery of those, as well as then presenting those to your colleagues and to your faculty panel at the very last semester in which you're in the program. So there are 3 speeds. Oftentimes we're asked, how long does it take to go through the program? Each of our programs are 60 credit hours. So whether you're clinical mental health counseling or marriage, couple, and family counseling, ultimately you have the same number of credit hours. And that's 20 separate courses, including practicum and internship. The time in which it takes you to get through depends largely on how many classes you take per semester. When a student first comes into the program, your very first semester, you are only allowed to take a maximum of 2 courses. And 2 courses is actually full-time in our graduate program and in graduate school. So that is considered, if you stay on that track, then that's a standard track. 2 classes per semester takes about 3 years and just a little over 3 years if somebody were to stay at 2 classes. We also have a moderate track. After your first semester, you could choose to go ahead and take 3 classes per semester, and that takes about 2.5 years if somebody stays on that track. And then we also have our wellness track, which is for those who have many different types of commitments that maybe people have going on, families, jobs. And so some of those people decide they want to take one class per semester, and they can still make it through the program. It takes a little while, but it is certainly an option as well. Our classes are offered one time per year typically. So that means that you do need to get in. You actually, once you get in, you meet with your program advisor and you set up a planned program. And that planned program will guide you through your time while you're here. It'll tell you what to take each semester so you don't ever have any questions about that. And you'll determine if you'll be taking 1, 2, or 3 classes each semester. But it's important that you stick to that. You are more than welcome to change that, to modify that whenever you would like to. You just need to set up an appointment and meet with your advisor about that so that you don't make any changes that would ultimately impact when you would graduate unless you are meaning to do so. So, because of course, if you miss a class and you have to wait a whole year for it to come back around, then you just need to know the implications and what's a prerequisite for what. But we're always more than happy to meet with you to do that. And again, this is something that can be individualized to what works for you and can be changed if life changes along the way. We do have 2 campuses, one of which is in DeLand and the other is in South Orlando. Our DeLand campus offers most, if not all, of our graduate classes in counselor education. In South Orlando, our campus is actually a collaborative agreement with Valencia's Osceola campus in Kissimmee, Florida. Not all of our classes are offered over there just because we have a smaller student population, but as long as we have minimum enrollment, we do offer as many classes as possible over in the South Orlando area. The schedule of our classes is quite similar with some minor differences that I will explain between the 2 campuses. Most of our graduate courses are offered one night per week, and they are usually 2.5 hours long. So if you are taking 2 courses, then you might come to campus 2 nights a week, or you may actually be able to stack your classes if you have a flexible enough schedule that you could attend one class from 4 to 6:30 and another class that same night from 6:45 to 9:15. So as I said, each of our classes are typically offered one time per week. This happens in both DeLand and South Orlando, but South Orlando has another possible schedule that is some of our classes being offered on Saturdays for the full day, and those, because they are much longer, meet less frequently. So for instance, you might have a class that meets from 8:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock in the evening, but also gives about an hour's break for lunch. In that case, you would actually come to class every other Saturday, meeting a total of 6 times. Our schedules are posted way ahead of time so students can plan accordingly as to which campus they would like to take courses on, as well as what the schedule would be and what would most fit your schedule as well. The location of our standards and our policies for your review. This is extremely important because anytime you engage in a program and you're putting a lot of resources, a lot of time and energy and your finances into this program, you want to make sure that you are making the selection that is the best one for you. So looking at our student handbook and our graduate catalog is one way in which you know exactly what you're getting into if you come into the program. Here is listed our website, stetson.edu/counselor will get you to both of these documents ultimately. And it's a really good idea to make sure that you go through these before you make your decision to accept placement into the program. And in addition to that, another thing that can be really important is to make sure that you review the ethical standards of the profession. So I mentioned earlier, we are CACREP accredited, and that is associated with the American Counseling Association. So this is our parent organization, as I had also mentioned on an earlier slide, that this is where our specific ethical codes of conduct come from. So you can go to this website, www.counseling.org, in order to find the most recent code of ethics available. And that will give you an opportunity to, again, even better understand what our profession is made up of, kind of how we're governed, the behaviors that are expected. And so sometimes this can be especially important for you in making the decision ahead of time. For example, one of the standards within the counseling profession says that counselors may not discriminate in any way against a client based on that counselor's value system. So this is a little bit different than it may be handled in the professions of, say, like social work or psychology. Counseling says that if you, as the counselor, have a values conflict, meaning that you disagree with the way a person maybe has their lifestyle, or you disagree with their religious beliefs, the American Counseling Association says that you are not allowed to refuse services to that person based on your values. And this is really important because, for instance, in some very small communities, there may only be one counselor available. So if somebody from this other value system is feeling suicidal and they're limited by their counselor, the only counselor around, not being willing to see them, then that can be a life and death situation. And that's the way the American Counseling Association approaches this. So what do they say you need to do if you have a values conflict? You need to learn how to, what we call, bracket your values, which means you get to keep your values, but you don't place those values on the client, those kinds of expectations on the client. And you also would seek out, that person would seek out supervision and find ways in which they could hold on to their own values for themselves, but also work very competently with that client at the same time. So I mentioned there may be some differences between that with social work and psychology. They both provide an avenue through their ethics codes or codes of ethics as to how to refer a person. They also very much believe that people should never discriminate against any group of people when they are a member of their professional organizations either. But if all else fails, they do provide ethically a way to refer that client to somebody else. So again, it's just really important that you understand the field in which you would be entering to make sure that it's the best possible fit for you, especially when there are others out there that are just somewhat different as well and may fit better. So personal and professional competencies. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that we would talk about some of the expectations that we would have for students. So the competencies that we would expect and that we're assessing for consistently with students kind of go along the dimensions of your knowledge, your clinical skills, and then your dispositions. And usually people pretty much understand the knowledge and the skills aspect. The dispositions is something that's maybe a little bit more specific to a counseling field or other helping professions. Dispositions refer to the personal and professional characteristics of a counselor. And those are things that, we have certain dispositions that we are assessing for that are based upon research as to what creates the most effective counselor. And in fact, we're also drawing from the literature and the research that says what creates a harmful counselor. And we want to avoid those dispositions. So the dispositions that students are expected to develop, you may or may not have those when you first come in. Some of these you would, and some you might be developing along the way. So I'd like to just kind of mention some of those. Primarily, the first one is self-awareness and self-acceptance. We think about the concept that it's very difficult to accept somebody else if you can't accept yourself. So this is something that oftentimes students aren't real strong in perhaps when they first come into the program, but it's something that we really focus in on. Again, with that wellness and resiliency aspect, we really focus in on a lot of self-reflection and the ability to really, really become aware of everything that you bring to the table in any kind of a relationship, especially that counseling relationship, and learning kind of how to go about developing self-acceptance. Because again, this is something you're going to want to help your clients do. And the best way to do that is to first navigate that journey yourself. Second one is openness to feedback. I often tell students that I can have a very strong student who comes into a course, especially like a skill-based, skill learning course. It can be really strong up front, but not really open to feedback and more defensive. And I can have a student who comes in pretty low on some of those skills when they first start out in the class, but they're really open to feedback and they want to hear what they're doing right and what they could do better. And usually that second person is the one who goes out the strongest at the end of the semester. That openness to feedback is such a huge part of becoming a really effective and reflective practitioner. So that's something that we hope to see students develop, as well as the acceptance of others' viewpoints, others' values, just learning to be able to accept others at that really basic level and then some. Another is openness to either learning and or utilizing healthy personal wellness strategies. And we talked about some of the reasons why that is. And I want to add to that the concept of burnout. We work really hard to teach students how, when they get into that professional environment, to avoid falling victim to burnout. That's something that it needs to be an intentional practice on a professional's part to make sure that they are practicing wellness consistently and keeping themselves strong and again, as a very competent practitioner. Ethical decision making. We are huge on this. This is one of many things that we get a lot of feedback on in a positive way from the community. We're told regularly that our students come in with such high levels of ethical knowledge that they really understand, again, those ethics, those codes of ethics, and the way in which to make an ethical decision when you're faced with something that doesn't have a direct yes or no type of answer. It's kind of in that gray area, and the process through which you come to the best decision. And another is multicultural competence, and that goes back to some degree, acceptance of others, but especially when those others are of a different culture than you, and understanding how to learn about them in a very respectful way to, again, create the most competent practitioner that you can be in helping them to, again, develop and enhance their wellness. And the final one is professional behavior. This actually covers many different realms. We're looking for professionalism throughout, but maybe a lot of times people really kind of conceptualize it as those respectful interactions. And there is, of course, being on time and having a high quality to your work and all of that, but also especially respectful interactions in a way that comes across as very professional with your peers, your faculty, your site when you're doing practicum and internship. All of those things. So those are the areas primarily that we are using our evaluative skills as well as assessments and things like that to keep track. We give feedback consistently, so you would be aware of how you're doing throughout the whole program regarding any of these, including the knowledge and the skills and the dispositions. But these are all very important aspects to our program and to your development as a counselor. And so another area that I would like to mention are some financial resources. These are things, there are always some of those greater financial abilities that people would have, such as there are the federal loans that people may be able to, and you're going to hear a lot of things from the admissions department as to the resources that they are aware of and can help connect you with. So we just really want to highlight some of the things that our students especially oftentimes will use. One is that we have up to a 40% tuition scholarship for our graduate students who are employed full-time for a nonprofit organization as either a teacher, an administrator, a counselor, or perhaps a member of the clergy under contract. So these are some opportunities that can be very beneficial and helpful to you. Another is many of our students become graduate assistants. That is something in which you work 20 hours. Normally it's 20 hours a week as a GA. And there are a lot of different opportunities on campus for that. Different departments have needs, and especially when they start to work with campus life and our undergraduate students, they usually really love our students because you're learning how to help people in a way that is especially beneficial for our undergrads. You also would get in the fall and the spring, you would get two courses as the tuition for free for two courses. Now, again, that's only fall and spring, and it only covers those two courses, and then you get a small stipend in those semesters. When you get to the summer semester, it doesn't cover any tuition, and we do have summer classes as a requirement, so it doesn't cover the tuition during that time. However, you get a bit larger stipend at that time. So another one, financial aid and loan forgiveness opportunities. You would talk with our financial aid department specifically about the loans and any other opportunities, but loan forgiveness is something that we always try to remind people about. We are in a field that is oftentimes working with people with specific needs and sometimes extreme needs. And there are loan forgiveness programs out there that fit the type of program or the type of training that you're getting, and then the type of work you would be doing very, very well. So that's something to look into ahead of time prior to when you graduate and begin paying those loans back. You want to know ahead of time because there are paperwork, there are things that you need to do before you would actually graduate and begin that repayment process. There are some people who have employer benefits that they can use. It's always worth, if that's something that's a possibility, it's always worth exploring that. And also we have had quite a few students who come in who have military background and they're able to use their VA benefits. There are also some outside scholarships. One example is the NBCC, a counseling foundation, is one that offers scholarships for students within the counseling realm specifically. So that's, again, a website to check out and just see what may be available that you might qualify for. Please do let us know how we can help you with this process. I am happy to meet with you individually ahead of time to talk with you and to see if this feels like a good fit to you. We also have Paula Hogan-Miller, the Assistant Director of Arts and Sciences Graduate Programs, and Valerie Long, an Administrative Specialist within our Department of Counselor Education, who are wonderful and always willing and able to answer the questions that you may have, especially those that are specific to our program. And that's only in addition to the wonderful folks that you're already working with in the admissions department. If there's anything that we can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out. We hope to see you soon at one of our upcoming events, and I thank you for your time and attention, and please do let us know how we can help you with this process.